The night was colder than anything Evan had ever felt in his life. The wind pushed against him like sharp blades, cutting through his coat, freezing the air around him. Snow covered everything, turning the world white and silent. Evan walked slowly, step by step, trying not to slip on the ice beneath his boots. He had traveled many planets before, but this frozen alien world was the harshest he had ever seen. He kept his small light in his hand, pointing it through the storm. The beam shook because his hands trembled from the cold. He had only one goal tonight: reach the old research cabin before the storm grew too strong. If he failed, he knew he might not survive the night. But then, something strange happened. A weak sound broke the silence. Very soft, very faint. It almost disappeared in the wind. Evan stopped walking. At first, he thought the sound was just the wind changing direction. But then he heard it again, a thin, broken cry, almost like a newborn gasping for air. His heart began to beat faster. He looked around, moving the light left and right. There was nothing but white snow and dark shadows. The storm screamed louder, as if trying to hide the sound from him. But the cry came again. Evan knew he couldn't ignore it. Even if it was dangerous. Even if it slowed him down. Someone needed help. He followed the sound, pushing through deeper snow, fighting the wind with every step. His boots sank into the ice, and cold air stung his face. The sound grew louder, more desperate. It wasn't a human cry. It was different, but still full of pain. After a few minutes, Evan found a small broken shelter made of ice and old metal pieces. Half of it had collapsed under the heavy snow. It didn't look safe at all. If someone was inside, they were in terrible danger. Evan slowly moved closer. He pushed away a piece of frozen cloth covering the entrance. His breath stopped in his chest. Inside the shelter lay an alien woman, shaking violently from the cold. Her skin was pale blue, her hair covered in frost. She looked weak, almost lifeless, but her eyes were open, tired, scared, and full of pain. In her arms were two newborn alien babies, wrapped in torn, thin cloths that gave almost no warmth. The twins cried softly, their small bodies trembling between life and death. Evan felt shock, fear, and anger all at once. "Hey, can you hear me?" he said softly. The alien mother looked at him with difficulty. Her lips were blue, and her voice was almost gone. She took a long, weak breath and whispered a single word: "Help." Her voice broke as if the word itself hurt her. Evan quickly looked around the shelter. There was barely anything, no heat, no food, no protection. Only footprints in the snow outside. Big footprints. Many footprints. Leading away from the shelter. Someone had brought her here, and then left her and her newborn twins to die. Evan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. Why would anyone leave a mother and two newborn babies alone in a deadly storm? What kind of people would do something like this? He moved inside the shelter and knelt beside her. "Don't worry," he said. "I'm here now. I won't leave you." The alien mother tried to speak again, but her voice faded. She closed her eyes for a moment, then forced them open. She looked terrified, as if she feared the people who abandoned her might return. Evan carefully touched one of the babies. Their small body was ice cold. They would not survive many more minutes in this storm. He knew what he had to do. He removed his heavy thermal blanket and wrapped it around the mother and the twins. The blanket was warm and thick, made for extreme cold. It was the only thing that could keep them alive long enough to escape the storm. The mother began to breathe a little easier, but she was still dangerously weak. "We need to move," Evan said. "I have to get you out of here." He stood up and scanned the snowy ground again. The footprints outside were fresh. Too fresh. Whoever left her might still be close. Maybe watching from the shadows. Maybe waiting for the storm to finish the job. The wind howled louder. Like a warning, Evan felt a strange tension in the air. A heavy, dark feeling that told him this was not a simple rescue. Something more dangerous was happening. Something he did not understand yet. He took a deep breath, grabbed the mother gently, and prepared himself to lift all three of them. He was alone in the snow. He was freezing. And he was carrying three strangers he had never met. But he also knew one thing clearly: if he walked away, they would die. Evan stepped out into the storm with the alien mother and her newborn twins in his arms. And in that moment, he felt eyes watching him from somewhere in the dark. The storm grew heavier as Evan stepped out of the broken shelter, carrying the alien mother and her newborn twins tightly against his chest. The wind pushed him back, almost as if the planet itself wanted to stop him. Snowflakes hit his face like small stones, and the cold crawled through his clothes. But Evan didn't care. He looked down at the fragile, alien babies wrapped in his thermal blanket. Their tiny breaths were shallow, and their blue skin looked even paler in the freezing night. The mother, Rila, he didn't know her name yet, but he would soon, held on to consciousness only by will. Her eyes opened and closed slowly, fighting to stay awake. "Stay with me," Evan whispered. "Please don't give up." He needed to reach safety. The old research cabin was still a long walk away. In this storm, every minute felt like an hour. He tightened his grip, trying to warm the babies with his own body heat. Then suddenly, crunch, the sound of snow being stepped on. Evan froze. It wasn't his own step. It came from behind him, slow, heavy, careful. He turned his head slightly. The storm made it hard to see more than a few meters, but something moved in the fog of snow. A shadow, tall, watching. Evan's heartbeat grew louder. He whispered to himself, "Someone followed us." He forced his legs to move. Each step was slow, painful, but he kept going. If he stopped, the cold would win. The crying of the babies grew weaker, and the mother suddenly whispered something, her voice soft as a breeze. "They will come." Evan leaned closer. Who will come?" Her lips trembled. "My clan." Clan. The word felt heavy, dangerous. Evan didn't know the customs of this alien species, but he understood one thing: these were not people who would help. These were the ones who had abandoned her in the snow. And if they came back, they would finish what they started. Evan walked faster, breathing hard, feeling the weight of 3 lives in his arms. He wanted to ask the mother more questions, but she was slipping away again. Her eyes fluttered open for a second, then closed as she whispered a single word: "Twins." Evan understood. Her clan must have seen the newborn twins as something bad, maybe a curse, maybe a problem. In some cultures, twins carried old legends or superstitions. Maybe her people believed something terrible about them, but leaving a mother and her babies to die? That was not a tradition. That was cruelty. Evan felt anger rise in his chest. Even in this storm, even on this alien world, he could not understand how someone could do such a thing. Then, another sound. A second crunch in the snow. This time closer. Evan turned sharply. For a moment, the wind softened, and he saw clearer shapes moving behind him in the fog. 3 tall figures. Their outlines were strong and sharp. They were not stumbling like victims of the storm. They were walking with purpose. Hunters. His breath caught. They were following him, step by step, waiting for something. Maybe waiting for him to collapse. Maybe waiting for the storm to weaken him so they could tear the babies from his arms. "No," Evan whispered. "Not tonight." He kept walking, faster now. Sweat formed on his forehead, even in the freezing cold. The weight of the mother and twins felt heavier with every second. The sounds of footsteps behind him continued, steady and cruel. Evan searched through his memory, the map he studied earlier. If he went straight west, he would reach the research cabin. If he turned north, he could move through a small forest of frozen trees that might hide his tracks, but the forest was dangerous. Many alien animals lived there. Some hunted anything warm, still. It was his only chance. Evan turned north. He moved between the frozen trees, their branches covered in thick ice. They cracked loudly when the wind hit them, sounding like bones breaking in the darkness. The babies whimpered and the mother shook in his arms. "Hold on," Evan said again. "Just a little longer." When he looked back, the shadows were still there, but farther away. The trees hid him well. For now, he reached a small hollow between the trees and rested for only a moment. He checked the mother's pulse with trembling fingers. Weak, but still there. He adjusted the thermal blanket around the babies. He whispered, "You're safe. I promise you're safe." But deep inside, he knew it was only half true, because out in the snow, the hunters were still searching. And they were getting closer. Evan took a deep breath, stood again, and lifted the mother and twins in his arms. There was no turning back. Tonight, he had made a decision. He would protect this alien mother and her newborns, even if it cost him his life. The frozen forest swallowed Evan as he moved deeper between the tall, icy trees. Their branches were covered with thick layers of frost, bending under the weight of the endless snowfall. The wind whispered through them, creating strange sounds that almost felt like voices calling from far away. Evan kept one arm around the alien mother and held the twins close against his chest with the other. He tried to step quietly, but the snow crunched under his boots no matter how careful he was. He stopped again, behind him. Crunch, 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 3 steps, heavy, slow, tracking him. He didn't turn around. He didn't have to. He already knew the hunters were still following him. Their presence pressed against his back like cold fingers. The mother opened her eyes weakly. "They are close," she whispered. Evan nodded. "I know." Her voice trembled as she tried to speak again. "They will not stop. They will take the twins. They believe twins bring disaster." Evan looked down at the babies. So small, so helpless. Their breaths were tiny clouds in the cold air. "What disaster?" Evan asked softly. Ryla closed her eyes. "Old stories, fear. They believe twins bring war, storms, sickness. Anything bad. My clan follows old rules. They think killing twins stops the curse." Evan felt a fire burn inside him. No child deserves that. The mother's voice became weaker. "They think. They are protecting the clan." Evan shook his head. "They're wrong." Another crunch echoed behind them, this time closer. Evan turned his head. Through the thick snow he saw them, 3 tall shapes moving slowly, confidently. They were built like warriors. Broad shoulders, long limbs, their skin glowing faintly under the pale moonlight. All 3 had ice-white markings across their faces and arms. Their eyes shined like cold steel. One of them lifted a long spear made of crystal. Evan felt his breath freeze inside his throat. The tallest hunter pointed the spear at him and shouted through the storm. His voice deep and harsh, "Human. Leave the mother. Leave the cursed ones. Walk away." Evan held the babies tighter. He didn't answer. Another hunter stepped forward. Her voice was sharp like cut stone. "You cannot save them. Even their own clan rejects them. Give them to us, and you may live." Evan's jaw tightened. He felt anger rise inside him, stronger than the cold. "No," he said. The hunters exchanged looks, shock, then amusement, and then anger. "You risk your life," the third hunter growled. "For a woman not of your kind and 2 cursed infants?" Evan's voice was steady. "They're not cursed. They're just children." The lead hunter lowered his spear, but only slightly. "You know nothing of our ways. Humans think everything can be saved. But some lives bring destruction." Evan took a step back, feeling the mother tremble in his arms. "I don't care what your stories say. I won't hand them over." The hunters stopped walking. The storm circled around them like a warning. For a long moment, neither side moved. Evan's heart pounded. He knew he couldn't fight 3 trained warriors with only his bare hands and a weak mother to protect. He needed a plan, something smart, something fast. The forest shook suddenly. A deep roar echoed far away. Evan felt the ground vibrate slightly. Rayla's eyes widened in fear. Night beasts. She whispered. They hunt anything that moves. The hunters looked around too, their expressions suddenly uncertain. Even they feared the night beasts. Evan didn't waste the moment. He stepped back into a thick group of trees, using the shadows to hide. The hunters yelled something and rushed forward, but the frozen branches blocked their path. Evan slipped behind a fallen log, lowering himself slowly so the babies wouldn't wake. He whispered, "Stay quiet. Stay still." The hunters' footsteps grew louder, then separated, one to the left, one to the right, and one straight ahead. They were trying to circle him. Evan breathed slowly. He knew he needed to confuse them. He picked up a small stone and threw it far into the tree's crack. The sound echoed loudly. The hunters reacted instantly, running toward the noise. Their shouting mixed with the wind. Evan moved in the opposite direction, stepping as softly as he could. He kept close to the trees, using every shadow he found. For a few minutes, he heard nothing but the storm. But then, a loud scream. A hunter's voice, sharp, terrified. The night beasts had found someone. Evan swallowed hard. The danger around him was growing fast. He looked at the mother in his arms and whispered, "I won't lose you. Any of you." He continued moving through the trees, feeling the cold air sting his face, feeling the fear of the hunters and the beasts, mixing in the night. But he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Because now the hunters knew something they didn't expect. This human wasn't afraid of them, and he wasn't going to let them take the twins. Asterisk. Evan moved through the frozen forest as fast as he could without falling. His feet sank into the snow with every step, but he kept going. The storm was calmer under the trees, but the danger was not gone. Behind him, far but not far enough, he could still hear the hunters. Distant shouting mixed with the deep roars of night beasts. He had to reach shelter. He had to reach the old research cabin, the mother in his arms. Rayla opened her eyes again for a brief moment. Her breath was weak. Her skin had turned almost white from the cold. The newborn twins rested silently on his chest, their tiny bodies shaking. "We're close," she whispered. Evan didn't know how she knew, but he trusted her. She was trying to stay awake for her children. Another gust of wind hit him, sending snow into his face. He blinked hard and stepped out of the forest. A small hill stood in front of him, and beyond it a shape, a building. The research cabin. It was old and covered with snow, but it was real. A place with walls, a roof, maybe a heater. Evan felt hope rise inside him. He hurried across the clearing. When he reached the cabin door, he pushed on it. It didn't open. Frozen shut. Evan lowered the mother carefully onto the ground for a moment, leaning her against the wall. He used both hands, pushing with all his strength. The wood cracked, the ice broke, and finally, boom, the door swung open. Cold air rushed out, but at least the inside was dark and dry. Evan grabbed Rayla and the twins again and carried them inside, closing the door behind him. He took a deep breath. Safe. For now, the cabin smelled old, like dust and metal. Evan clicked on the wall panel. To his surprise, the power hummed softly and a few small lights flickered on. Not much, but enough. He rushed to the corner where the emergency heater stood. He pressed the button. Nothing. He hit it once more. A weak glow appeared, then a warm breeze filled the cabin. Evan smiled with relief. He gently placed Rayla near the heater and removed the snow from her clothes. The twins, wrapped tightly in the thermal blanket, began to breathe a little easier as the warmth reached them. Rayla blinked slowly. "Thank you." Human. Evan knelt beside her. Stay awake if you can. I need to check your injuries." He used the old medical kit he found on a shelf. Alien anatomy was different, but he cleaned her wounds and bandaged the cuts on her arms. They looked fresh, probably from when the hunters dragged her. Ryla watched him with tired eyes. "You shouldn't have helped us," she whispered. Evan frowned. "Why not? You risk your life. For strangers. No one deserves to die in the snow," he said softly. Ryla looked at the twins, her voice trembling with love and fear. "My people think twins are a curse. Long ago, a disease spread after a pair of twins were born. The clan blamed the children. Since then, twins mean danger." "That sounds like an old superstition," Evan said. Ryla nodded weakly. "But my clan does not question old stories. They fear what they do not understand." Evan touched the blanket around the babies. "Why do they glow slightly? Is it normal?" Ryla hesitated. Her eyes shifted toward the door, afraid someone might hear. "It is not a curse, human. It is a gift." Evan leaned closer. Ryla continued, voice barely above a whisper. "Their glow means they carry an ancient trait. Only a few in our history had it. They could sense danger, sense truth, help balance our world." Evan stared at the twins, amazed. "So they're special?" Ryla nodded. "But the clan elders fear what they do not understand. They want to erase the old bloodlines." Evan suddenly understood everything. "Your clan abandoned you," he said, anger rising. "Not because of danger, but because of fear." Rayla's eyes filled with tears. "They said if I loved my children, I must let the storm take us." Evan clenched his fists. "I won't let anyone take you." Silence filled the cabin for a moment. Until thud. A heavy noise hit the outside wall. Evan's heart jumped. Another thud. Closer to the door, Ryla gasped. "They found us." Evan moved quickly. He checked the window. Through the frost-covered glass, he saw shadows moving in the snow. Not beasts. Hunters. 3. No. 4. Maybe more. They surrounded the cabin. Evan's breath tightened. He looked at Ryla and the twins. "I won't let them in," he whispered, but deep inside, he knew the truth. The cabin was not a hiding place. It was a trap, and now the hunters were outside, waiting to break in. The research cabin grew silent, except for the crackle of the small heater. The warmth had only just begun to fill the room when another thud hit the outside wall. Snow fell from the ceiling beams, and the lights flickered. Evan looked at the door. Someone was trying to break in. Ryla held the twins closer to her chest, fear shaking her entire body. The babies whined softly, sensing the danger outside. Evan raised a hand for silence. He listened carefully, snow crunching. Low voices, soft growls of anger. The hunters were here. He moved to the window and wiped away a thin layer of frost. 4 tall figures stood outside, weapons raised. Their eyes glowed blue in the dark snow. They looked like ghosts searching for revenge. One of them slammed the spear against the door again. Boom! The wood bent, but did not break. Ryla whispered, "They will not leave until we are dead." Evan turned toward her. "I won't let them touch you." She shook her head. "They fear the twins. They think killing us will stop the old blood from returning." The heater's dim light made shadows dance across the cabin walls. Evan's mind raced. He knew he couldn't fight 4 trained hunters in a direct battle. He needed to use the cabin to his advantage. Use traps. Use the environment. His eyes moved around the room. Old tools, loose boards, metal pipes, broken wiring. He could use some of these. He pulled the mother and babies farther away from the door. Then he whispered, "Whatever happens, stay low. Don't make a sound." Ryla nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. Another boom hit the door, shaking the entire cabin. The hunters shouted in their sharp alien language. demanding the humans step away and leave the cursed ones. Evan didn't listen. He lit a small emergency flare he found from the equipment box. Its bright flame filled the cabin with red light. He placed it near the window so the hunters would see movement there and think someone was trying to escape. Then, he moved quietly to the opposite corner. He picked up a long metal pipe, lifted it carefully, and wedged it under the door handle to create a second lock. The door was old, but this might slow them down. He knelt beside Rayla for a second. "If I tell you to run, run into the forest. Don't look back." Her voice shook. "Human. They will kill you." Evan gave a small smile. "Not if I stay smart." Another heavy strike hit the door. This time, crack. A piece of wood broke. The hunters shouted loudly. The cry of the twins echoed back through the cabin, high and sharp. Their glowing skin brightened, pulsing softly like tiny stars. Evan felt something, a strange energy in the room. The air vibrated slightly. The hunters felt it too. One of them stepped back in fear. "The cursed glow," one hissed. "Kill them before it grows stronger." Evan's anger exploded. He grabbed the heater and slid it toward the door. Even though it was small, it was hot enough to work as a temporary barrier or a weapon if needed. The hunters struck again. Crack! The door finally broke halfway. A hunter's arm burst through the opening, claws reaching inside. Evan reacted instantly. He grabbed the hot metal pipe. He heated near the heater and smashed it against the hunter's arm. A deafening scream filled the forest. The arm pulled back. The hunter fell to the snow outside, furious and injured. Evan didn't waste time. He kicked the broken door shut again, forcing the pipe back into place. Rayla stared at him, shocked. "You fight like a warrior." Evan shook his head. "I fight like someone who refuses to lose family." The wind howled harder, pushing snow through the broken cracks. The hunters regrouped. They spoke in low voices, forming a new plan. Evan's heart pounded. He knew they were preparing for a full attack. Suddenly, the cabin roof groaned. Snow fell heavily from above. Evan looked up just in time to see a shadow land on the roof. A hunter had climbed on top. The roof creaked again. Claws scraped against old metal. He was trying to break in through the ceiling. Evan rushed to the table, grabbed an old metal tray, and held it above his head. The ceiling bent inward. Snow dropped inside. A claw punched through. Evan shoved the tray up, smashing it into the claw. The hunter screamed again, but the ceiling was weakening. Then crack! A whole section of the metal roof collapsed inward. Snow burst into the cabin. A hunter fell through the opening, landing only 5 steps from Rayla and her newborns. The hunter rose slowly, eyes locked on the glowing twins. Rayla cried out in terror. Evan grabbed the metal pipe again and stepped between them. The hunter growled, lifting his spear, and Evan whispered, "You'll have to kill me first." Snow dust covered the cabin floor as the hunter who fell through the roof rose slowly, shaking off the broken wood. His tall, cold body looked even more threatening under the dim light. His spear dragged across the floor, making a sharp, scraping sound that sent chills down Ryla's back. The twins whimpered. Their glowing skin pulsed softly, a frightened heartbeat of light. Evan held the metal pipe tight in his hands. His breath came fast, but his eyes were steady. He stepped in front of Rayla and her newborns, blocking the hunter's path. The hunter bared his sharp teeth. "You protect cursed blood," he growled. "You protect death." Evan tightened his grip. "I protect life. All life." The hunter lunged. Evan moved quickly, swinging the metal pipe toward the hunter's arm. The hunter blocked it with the spear shaft, sparks flying as metal hit crystal. The hunter struck again, faster, forcing Evan to step back. The cabin shook with their movements. Rayla held her children close, her heart breaking. "Leave us," she cried to Evan. "If you die, my children will never forgive themselves." But Evan didn't listen. He dodged another strike, barely missing the sharp blade. The spear stabbed into the wall instead, cracking the wood. Evan used the moment to slam the pipe against the hunter's ribs. The hit forced the hunter to stumble a step backward. Outside, the other hunters roared, banging on the cabin walls. The whole structure trembled like it was about to collapse. The hunter inside growled angrily. He rushed forward again, but this time the floor betrayed him. The wooden boards underneath him, already weakened by snow and time, broke under his weight. Crack! The hunter fell through the half-frozen floorboards, his legs sinking into the lower level of the cabin. Evan didn't hesitate. He grabbed a heavy toolbox and pushed it over the hole, trapping the hunter's legs inside. The hunter roared and reached upward, clawing at the air. "Move!" Evan shouted. He raced toward the door, lifting the broken metal cabinet, wedging it tightly across the doorway so other hunters couldn't force their way inside so easily. But the pounding outside grew louder. The walls began to split. The roof creaked again, like it was begging the storm for mercy. "We have to leave," Rilo whispered. "The cabin will not survive." Evan nodded. He grabbed the thermal blanket and wrapped it around the twins. Rilo tried to stand but collapsed from weakness. "I'll carry you," Evan said. Rilo shook her head. "I am slowing you. Leave me. Take my children." Evan lifted her anyway. "No, all three of you stay together." For a moment, Rilo stared at him, stunned. Humans were strange creatures to her people. Humans risked everything for reasons no other species understood. Outside, the hunters prepared something new. Their voices rose together in a chilling chant like a ritual. Evan didn't know what it meant, but he knew it wasn't good. He pulled Rilo close, tucked the twins securely against his chest, and rushed to the back of the cabin where a small window sat frozen shut. He kicked it once, twice. On the third kick, the glass shattered outward. Cold wind flooded the room. Snowflakes hit his face. The hunters outside roared. They heard the escape. Evan climbed through the window, holding Rilo tightly. He landed in the deep snow behind the cabin and immediately felt the icy bite claw at his skin. He moved quickly into the forest again, his legs burning, lungs aching. Rayla's weight and the twins' fragile bodies made every step harder. The storm had finally started to weaken. The sky above was turning from pitch black to deep gray. Dawn was coming, but so were the hunters. Evan heard them screaming from behind the cabin. Branches snapped. Footsteps pounded against the snow. They were seconds away. He pushed himself harder, climbing over fallen logs and moving through thick ice bushes. The forest ahead opened into a long frozen valley. At the end of that valley, a faint orange light, the human outpost. They were close. So close, but the hunters closed in too. Evan heard them leaping through the trees, faster than any human could move. Rilo looked back and gasped. "They're almost here." Evan refused to look back. "We're not stopping." The twins glowed brighter, sensing danger. Their soft light spread between the trees like tiny stars, making the forest glow faintly blue. Somewhere behind him, a hunter growled. "Their light awakens the old power. Kill them before dawn." The ground shook. Dawn crept over the horizon. Evan reached the frozen valley's edge and nearly stumbled from exhaustion. The outpost lights flickered ahead like a tiny promise of safety. But behind him, the hunters burst from the trees. Evan looked forward and whispered, "Just a little more. Please." He took one step, then another. Then a large shadow jumped in front of him, blocking his path. Another hunter, this one bigger than all the rest. A spear shining in his hand. Evan froze. He had no strength left, but he tightened his hold on the twins. He would not let them go. Not now. Not ever. The giant hunter blocked Evan's path like a wall of ice. His tall frame cast a huge shadow across the frozen valley. His spear glowed with cold blue energy, humming like it held the storm inside it. Ryla trembled in Evan's arms. The twins whimpered softly, sensing danger. Their tiny glowing bodies pressed against his chest. Evan's legs shook from exhaustion. Every part of him hurt. But he stepped forward anyway. The giant hunter lowered his spear toward Evan's heart. "You cannot escape. Human," the hunter growled. "Give the cursed twins to us now." Evan didn't move. He didn't step back. He didn't bow his head. Instead, he looked straight into the hunter's cold eyes and said, in a steady voice, "I'm not giving them to you. Not today. Not ever." The hunter's eyes narrowed. "You protect them even though they are not your kind?" "They're innocent," Evan said. "That is enough." Behind him, 3 more hunters arrived, forming a circle. Their eyes glowed with anger. Their breath rose in white clouds. Their claws tightened around their weapons. Ryla clung to Evan's shirt. "Please, go. Save yourself." Evan shook his head slowly. "I told you. I'm not leaving you." Rayla's chest tightened. No one in her clan had ever protected her with this kind of courage. No one, but this human. The giant hunter took a step forward, lifting the spear. "Move aside," he ordered. "Or die." Evan raised his voice, louder than he ever had before. "If you want them, you'll have to kill me first." The wind stopped for a moment. The hunters froze, surprised by his raw defiance, but then a soft glow spread across Evan's chest. The twins, the tiny alien babies, slowly opened their eyes. Their blue glow grew brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat made of light. A warm ripple spread across Evan's arms, then across the ground, then across the valley. The hunters hesitated, stepping back in fear. The prophecy. One whispered, "The glow of truth." Ryla gasped. "But that power, it only appears when the children feel pure protection. Pure love." The giant hunter stumbled backward as the glowing light from the twins surrounded Evan like a shield. The snow under them shimmered. The twins' cries echoed through the valley, but not like normal cries. Their tiny voices created a soft, beautiful sound that filled the air. Like a forgotten song from ancient times, the ground shook gently, the sky brightened, and then the sun finally rose over the frozen valley. Dawn. The hunters froze in place, their eyes widening. They had feared this moment since the birth of the twins, the dawn of spirits. The giant hunter whispered, "It is real." Evan did not understand the legend, but he understood something else. The hunters were afraid. The glow from the twins grew stronger as the sunlight touched them. The light rose like a small blue flame around their bodies. Rayla's tears fell as she realized the truth. Her children were not cursed. They were chosen. The giant hunter dropped his spear to the snow. The others stepped back. For the first time, fear turned to confusion. Confusion turned to awe. Awe turned to silence. One of the hunters knelt. Then another. And another. Soon, all the hunters lowered their heads. Rayla watched with shaking hands. They recognized the truth. The giant hunter struggled to speak. "The glow proves the old blood lives. The children carry the spirit of harmony. They are not a curse." Evan spoke softly. "Then let them live." The giant hunter nodded slowly. "We were wrong." His voice cracked with regret. Evan took a step forward, holding the twins. "Then promise you'll never harm them again." The hunter placed his hand over his heart. "We swear it." Wind moved gently around them. Not cold, but warm. The dawn light wrapped the valley in soft gold. Evan finally fell to his knees, exhausted. Rayla caught him with her shaking hands. "You saved us," she whispered. "You saved my children, my clan, my future." The giant hunter stepped forward and bowed deeply to Evan, something no alien of their species had ever done to a human. "You are no ordinary outsider," he said. "Today, you changed our destiny." Evan, breathing heavily, gave a tired smile. I just did what was right." Rila held the twins close, their glow slowly fading as they calmed. She looked at Evan with deep gratitude. "You are family now," she whispered. "Always." As the sun rose higher, the humans at the outpost spotted the light and rushed forward. They found Evan collapsed in the snow, Rila and the twins beside him, safe. And in that frozen valley, a legend was born, a legend about a human who faced a storm, fought hunters, protected newborns, and stood against an entire clan. Not with weapons, not with power, but with courage and heart. And for the first time in many generations, the alien clan finally understood what humans meant when they said, "Family is chosen."